The Korath Empire came from the stars with confidence. They were tall and slender, their bodies built for speed. Their bones were hollow, their muscles were lean, their movements were grace itself. They had conquered a dozen worlds. They had never lost a war. They looked at Earth and saw a primitive world filled with lumbering brutes. Slow, heavy, weak. They thought this would be easy. General Vex commanded the invasion fleet. He was young for a general, but he had already won 3 campaigns. His name was spoken with respect across the empire. He stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the blue and green world below. His science officers had prepared reports. Human technology was primitive. Human weapons were simple. Human armor was made of metal. Metal. Vex laughed when he heard that. His own soldiers wore lightweight alloys that allowed them to move like the wind. Human armor looked like something from a museum. Something from a time before real war. The Korath fleet took position above Earth. Thousands of ships, sleek and fast, filled the sky. They did not attack immediately. They wanted to study the humans. They wanted to understand their enemy. Vex ordered his science officers to bring back samples of human military equipment. They returned with rifles, helmets, and body armor. Vex picked up a human chest plate. It was heavy, thick, made of steel and ceramic. He held it in his hands and felt the weight. It was heavier than anything his soldiers carried. Much heavier. Primitive, he said. He turned the chest plate over in his hands. They still use metal. They still rely on brute strength. No wonder they have never left their system. His officers laughed with him. They had conquered worlds with technology far beyond this. Energy weapons, shield generators, ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Humans were still using metal plates to protect themselves. It was almost sad. Almost. Vex decided to send a message. He wanted the humans to know who was coming. He wanted them to feel fear. He broadcast to Earth on all frequencies. His face appeared on every screen, on every device, in every home. He was tall and proud, his armor gleaming, his eyes cold. People of Earth, I am General Vex of the Korath Empire. Your world has been mapped for conquest. Your military is laughable. Your armor is ancient. Your weapons are toys. Surrender now, and your people will be spared. Resist, and you will be crushed. You have 24 hours. He ended the transmission and waited. He expected panic. He expected chaos. He expected the humans to beg for mercy. They did not. Instead, something else happened. Something he did not expect. Earth prepared for war. Vex watched the reports come in. Human armies moved into position. Ships were scrambled. Weapons were readied. The humans did not surrender. They did not beg. They did not break. They prepared to fight. Vex was surprised but not worried. He had seen this before. Species always resisted. They always thought they had a chance. They were always wrong. He ordered his fleet to prepare for invasion. His soldiers, fast and graceful, ready to strike like lightning. His ships, sleek and deadly, ready to burn the sky. He looked at the human chest plate sitting on his command console. Heavy, primitive, useless. He picked it up one more time, feeling the weight. He thought about the humans who wore these things. Slow, heavy, weak. He set the armor down and looked at Earth. 24 hours, he said to himself. Then we show them what real war looks like. He did not know that the humans had been wearing that weight for centuries. He did not know that the metal plates he held in his hands had been passed down through generations. He did not know that every dent, every scratch, every mark on that armor told a story. A story of battles fought, of losses endured, of victories won. He did not know that the armor was not just metal. It was history. It was memory. It was the weight of a species that had never stopped fighting. He did not know any of this. He looked at the armor and saw something primitive. He looked at the humans and saw something weak. He was wrong. But he would learn. He would learn when his fast, graceful soldiers met the slow, heavy humans on the ground. He would learn when his advanced weapons bounced off the ancient armor. He would learn when his army, which had never lost, began to break. He would learn that the weight he could not lift was the weight that would crush him. But that was still to come. For now, he was confident. For now, he was arrogant. For now, he was waiting for the humans to surrender. They did not. They never would. The 24 hours passed. Earth did not surrender. General Vex was surprised, but he was not worried. He had expected resistance. He had expected the humans to be stubborn. He ordered the invasion to begin. Korath ships descended through the atmosphere. Troop carriers landed in open fields outside the major cities. Soldiers poured out by the thousands, fast and graceful, their lightweight armor gleaming in the morning sun. They expected to find human armies waiting for them. They expected to crush them in a single battle. They found nothing. The fields were empty. The roads were silent. The cities ahead were dark. The humans had retreated. They had hidden in places the Korath did not know. Underground. In tunnels. In mountains. In the ruins of old buildings. The Korath advanced cautiously, scanning for traps, waiting for ambushes. Nothing happened. They captured towns. They secured roads. They took prisoners. The prisoners did not resist. They did not fight. They simply looked at the Korath with strange expressions. Not fear. Not anger. Something else. Something that made the Korath soldiers uncomfortable. Something like pity. General Vex was puzzled. He had conquered a dozen worlds. He had never seen prisoners look at their captors with pity. He ordered a prisoner brought to his command post. He wanted to see for himself. He wanted to understand. The prisoner was a human soldier, captured during the first wave. He was tall, even by human standards. Broad. Built like a wall. He wore the same heavy armor that Vex had laughed at. Thick plates of metal. Layers of padding. A helmet that covered his face. Vex circled him, studying the armor up close. It was thick. Heavy. Covered in scratches and dents. It looked like it had been through 100 battles. How do you move in this? Vex asked. How do you fight? The human soldier said nothing. He simply stood there, looking at Vex with calm, steady eyes. Vex grew annoyed. He was not used to being ignored. Your armor is primitive, he said. It belongs in a museum. My soldiers move like the wind. They strike like lightning. Your kind cannot match us. The human soldier finally spoke. His voice was calm. Quiet. Try it on. Vex blinked. What? Try it on, the human said again. Put on our armor. See how it feels. Then tell me it's primitive. Vex laughed. His officers laughed with him. The idea was ridiculous. He was a general. He did not need to wear the armor of a primitive species. But the human did not laugh. He stood there, calm and patient, waiting. Vex stopped laughing. He looked at the armor. He was curious. He wanted to prove the human wrong. Fine, he said. I will wear your armor. And then I will show you how useless it is. The human soldiers removed the chest plate. They laid it on a table. Vex approached. He lifted the armor. It was heavier than he expected. Much heavier. He had held human armor before, but that was just a sample. This was a full chest plate, worn by a soldier who had carried it into battle. The weight pressed down on his arms. His slender frame, built for speed, was never meant to carry this much metal. He hesitated. His officers were watching. He could not back down. He put it on. The weight hit him immediately. It pressed down on his shoulders, his chest, his back. His knees buckled. His spine strained. He tried to take a step and stumbled. He tried to raise his arms and could not. The armor was crushing him. His officers rushed forward to help, but he waved them away. He was determined. He would not fall. He took another step. His legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees. The human soldier watched. His face showed no triumph. No mockery. He simply watched. It's just metal armor, Vex gasped. His voice was strained. His body was trembling. How do you carry this? The human soldier stepped forward. He bent down and picked up the chest plate, the same chest plate that was crushing Vex, and lifted it like it weighed nothing. He held it in one hand, steady, easy. You carry it because you have to, he said. You carry it because it keeps you alive. You carry it because the person next to you is carrying the same weight. You carry it because you are not fighting for glory. You are fighting for home. He set the armor down. The sound of it hitting the table was heavy, final. We have been carrying this weight for centuries. It is part of us. It has made us strong. It has made us resilient. It has made us who we are. Your soldiers are fast. They are graceful. But they have never carried this weight. They have never known what it is to fight under this burden. And when they face us, they will learn. Vex collapsed. The armor fell from his shoulders and hit the ground with a heavy thud. He lay there, gasping, his body shaking. His officers helped him up. He looked at the human soldier with new eyes. Not contempt. Not mockery. Something else. Something he had never felt before. Respect. And beneath it, something darker. Something that tasted like fear. The invasion began in earnest. Korath soldiers poured into human cities, fast and graceful, their weapons ready. They moved through the streets like shadows, their lightweight armor gleaming, their energy rifles humming. They expected to overwhelm the humans with speed. They expected to win with agility. They were wrong. The humans did not try to match the Korath's speed. They could not. Their bodies were heavier. Their armor was thicker. They moved slowly, deliberately, like mountains shifting. But they did not need speed. They used their weight. Their armor, so heavy, so primitive, made them immovable. They stood in the streets and took the Korath's fire. Energy beams struck their chest plates and scattered. Blasts that would have pierced Korath armor left nothing but scorch marks on human steel. The humans did not fall. They did not break. They advanced. Step by step, street by street, they moved forward. The Korath danced around them, striking and retreating, their speed useless against an enemy that would not fall. They fired again and again. The humans kept coming. They used their weapons when they could, but they did not need them. One punch from a human soldier could shatter Korath armor. One push could send a Korath warrior flying across the street. The humans used their weight, their strength, their endurance. They did not tire. They did not fall. They kept coming. General Vex watched from his command post. His screens showed the battle unfolding across the city. He saw his soldiers, so fast, so graceful, being pushed back by humans who moved like mountains. He saw his weapons, designed to pierce light armor, bouncing off human steel. He saw his army, which had never lost, beginning to break. He thought about the armor, the weight that had crushed him, the weight that humans carried every day. He thought about what the soldier had said. You carry it because you have to. He understood now. The humans had been carrying this weight for centuries. It was not just armor. It was history. It was struggle. It was survival. It had made them strong. It had made them resilient. It had made them impossible to defeat. He sent a message to the Korath High Command. His voice was steady, but his words were not. We underestimated them. Their armor is not primitive. It is a weapon. It makes them immovable, unbreakable. They do not fall. They do not tire. They do not break. We cannot win this war. We should withdraw. We should leave now, before we lose everything. The High Command refused. They had never lost an invasion. They would not lose to a species that wore metal armor. They sent more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Vex received his reinforcements. He did not want them. He knew they would die. He knew the humans would find a way. He knew this war could not be won. But he had his orders. He would fight. He would do his duty. The war dragged on. Weeks became months. The Korath controlled the skies. Their ships filled the space above Earth. Their weapons could strike any target. But they did not control the ground. They had never controlled the ground. The humans held their cities. They held their homes. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They fought with a weight that the Korath could not match. Vex watched his army crumble. His soldiers, once so confident, were now tired. They were afraid. They had never faced an enemy that did not fall. An enemy that did not break. An enemy that carried a weight they could not even lift. His soldiers spoke of the human armor with fear in their voices. They called it the unbreakable shell. They called it the walking mountain. They called it death. He thought about the human soldier, the one who had challenged him, the one who had watched him fall. He thought about the armor, the weight, the lesson he had learned too late. It's just metal armor. Those were his words. He had spoken them with contempt. He had believed them. He had been wrong. The humans did not need advanced technology. They did not need energy weapons or shield generators or ships that could cross the galaxy. They had something better. They had weight. They had endurance. They had the willingness to carry a burden that would crush any other species. They had each other. Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the reports come in. More soldiers lost. More territory abandoned. More of his army falling to an enemy that should have been weak. He thought about the human soldier's words. You carry it because the person next to you is carrying the same weight. He looked at his own soldiers. They were fast. They were graceful. They were alone. They had never carried anything heavier than their own pride. And that pride was crumbling. He made a decision. He would not send more soldiers to die. He would not throw more lives away for an empire that did not care. He would find another way. He would talk to the humans. He would ask for peace. He would accept defeat. Because he had learned what the humans already knew. Some weights were too heavy to carry alone. And some weights could not be carried at all. General Vex called for a meeting with the human commander. He did not know if they would agree. He had been their enemy for months. His soldiers had burned their cities. His weapons had killed their people. His name was spoken with hatred across the planet. But he needed to understand. He needed to know why they fought. He needed to know why they carried the weight that had crushed him. The meeting took place in a ruined building. Once it had been a home. Now it was rubble. Broken walls. Shattered windows. Dust covering everything. The humans came with guards. Their rifles were ready. Their eyes were watching. Vex came alone. No guards. No weapons. He stood in the rubble and waited. He did not know if they would kill him. He did not care. He needed answers. The human commander arrived. It was the same soldier who had challenged him. The one who had worn the armor like it was nothing. The one who had watched him fall. He was tall and broad. His armor was scratched and dented. His face was calm. His eyes were steady. He looked at Vex and waited. "Why do you fight?" Vex asked. His voice was quiet. The months of war had worn him down. "Your armor is heavy. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is behind ours. Why do you keep fighting? You could surrender. You could save your people. Why do you keep fighting?" The soldier looked at him. His eyes were calm. They did not hold anger. They did not hold hatred. They held something Vex did not expect. Patience. "Because we have something to fight for," he said. "Our homes. Our families. Our future. Your soldiers fight for glory. For conquest. For an empire that does not care if they live or die. We fight for each other. That is why we carry the weight. That is why we do not fall." Vex was silent. He thought about his soldiers. The ones who had died in the streets. The ones who were still fighting in the ruins. The ones who would never go home. He thought about the empire that had sent them. An empire that had never lost. An empire that did not care. He thought about the weight that humans carried. The weight that had crushed him. The weight that his soldiers could not lift. "I did not understand," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "I thought your armor was primitive. I thought you were weak. I thought you would break. I was wrong." The soldier nodded. "You were wrong. But you are not the first. Others have come before you. Others have made the same mistake. They looked at our armor and saw something heavy. They looked at our weapons and saw something old. They looked at us and saw something slow. They did not understand. They did not understand that the weight is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is what makes us who we are." Vex looked at the ruins around him. The broken walls. The shattered windows. The dust that covered everything. He thought about the people who had lived here. The families. The children. The lives that had been destroyed. He thought about what they were fighting for. Their homes. Their families. Their future. He thought about what he was fighting for. An empire that did not care. "What happens now?" he asked. The soldier looked at him. His eyes were still calm. His voice was still quiet. "Now, you leave. You go back to your empire. You tell them what happened here. You tell them that Earth is not a world to be conquered. You tell them that the weight we carry is heavier than anything they can imagine. And you tell them never to come back." Vex nodded. He turned to leave. He had taken a few steps when the soldier spoke again. "One more thing." Vex stopped. He turned back. The soldier was looking at him. There was something in his eyes that Vex had not seen before. Not patience. Not calm. Something else. Something like sadness. "The armor you tried on. The one that crushed you. Do you want to know why you could not lift it?" Vex waited. He did not speak. He did not move. He waited. The soldier smiled. It was a small smile. A tired smile. A smile that had seen too much. Because it was empty. When we wear it, it is not empty. It is filled with something you do not have. It is filled with the weight of our history. Our struggles. Our losses. Our victories. It is filled with the people we have lost. The people we are fighting for. It is filled with everything we are. That is why we can carry it. That is why it does not break us. And that is why you could not. He turned and walked away. His footsteps were heavy on the broken ground. His armor caught the light, the scratches and dents glowing in the afternoon sun. Vex stood in the ruins and watched him go. He watched until the human soldier disappeared into the rubble. He watched until there was nothing left to see. He understood now. He understood why the humans fought. Why they carried the weight. Why they would never break. He understood that the armor was not just metal. It was memory. It was love. It was everything they had lost and everything they were fighting to keep. He understood that his soldiers, fast and graceful, could never match that weight, because they had never carried anything heavier than their own pride. He turned and walked back to his ship. He would go home. He would tell the Empire what he had learned. He would tell them that some weights were too heavy to carry, and some weights could not be fought. He would tell them never to come back, and he would hope that they listened, because if they did not, they would learn the same lesson he had learned. The lesson that cost him everything. The Korath Empire withdrew from Earth. Their ships disappeared into the void, leaving behind ruins and silence. General Vex returned to his homeworld in disgrace. He was stripped of his rank. His name was erased from military records. His medals were taken. His career was over. He was forgotten by his people. But he did not forget. He carried the memory of the weight he could not lift, the weight that had defeated his army, the weight that had taught him the true meaning of strength. He wrote a book. He called it The Weight. In it, he told the story of the human armor, the armor that looked primitive, the armor that was too heavy, the armor that had crushed him. He wrote about the soldier who had challenged him, the one who had worn the armor like it was nothing, the one who had told him the truth. He wrote about the weight that humans carried, the weight of history, of struggle, of loss, of love. We thought we were strong because we were fast, he wrote. We thought we were powerful because our weapons were advanced. We were wrong. Strength is not in speed. Strength is not in technology. Strength is in the willingness to carry the weight, to bear the burden, to fight for something greater than yourself. The humans taught us that. They taught us that the heaviest armor is not made of metal. It is made of history, of loss, of love. That is a weight no one can lift alone. And that is why they could not be defeated. The book spread across the galaxy. Other species read it. Other generals learned the lesson. The warning spread from world to world, from empire to empire, from generation to generation. Never fight humans on their homeworld. Not because they are stronger. Not because they have better weapons. Because they carry a weight you cannot understand. A weight that makes them unbreakable. A weight that will crush anyone who tries to take what they have fought for. On Earth, the humans rebuilt. They cleared the rubble. They buried their dead. They built new homes. They did not celebrate their victory. There were no parades. No victory speeches. They had lost too much. Millions were gone. Cities were ruins. Families were broken. But they were alive. They were free. They were still carrying the weight. The soldier who had challenged General Vex became a teacher. His name was Marcus. He had been fighting since the first day. He had lost friends. He had lost family. He had seen his world burn. But he had not broken. He stood before young recruits in a training ground that had once been a battlefield. He held up a chest plate. The same armor that had crushed an alien general. The same armor that had saved their world. This is not just metal, he told them. His voice was quiet, but they listened. This is our history. This is our strength. This is the weight our ancestors carried. The weight our parents carried. The weight we carry so that our children do not have to. Wear it with pride. Wear it with honor. Wear it knowing that you are not alone. We carry it together. And that is why we will never fall. The recruits listened. They were young. They did not remember the war. They had heard stories. They wanted to know the truth. He told them. About the invasion. About the armor. About the general who had tried to lift it and could not. About the lesson they had learned. They put on the armor. They felt the weight. It was heavy. It pressed down on their shoulders. Their knees wanted to buckle. Their backs wanted to bend. But they did not stumble. They did not fall. They stood tall. Because they were not carrying it alone. They were carrying it together. And together, they were unbreakable. The galaxy never forgot the lesson. The Korath Empire fell not long after the invasion. The weight of their own arrogance crushed them. Other empires rose in its place. Wars were fought. Borders were drawn. But no one ever tried to conquer Earth again. The warning held. The memory held. Because every species, every general, every empire remembered the story. The story of the armor that looked primitive. The weight that could not be lifted. The species that would not break. And whenever a young soldier asked why, an old commander would tell the story. The story of the Korath fleet. The story of the human armor. The story of General Vex, who had tried to lift a weight he did not understand. The story of the weight that could not be carried alone. The story of Earth. And the young soldier would listen. And the young soldier would understand. And the warning would live for another generation. Never fight humans on their homeworld. Not because they are stronger. Not because they have better weapons. Because they carry a weight you cannot lift. A weight you cannot fight. A weight that will crush you. And that weight is not metal. It is everything they are. Everything they have lost. Everything they are fighting for. And that is a weight no one can carry alone. That is why they carry it together. That is why they will never fall.